afternoon, distinguished delegates, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to be here with you to address a topic which, as chair of the UN Committee on World Food Security, I hold particularly close to my heart. As some of you may know, I spent the first 15 years of my life on a dairy farm, and indeed, some of you have sorted out, I still can milk cows by hand. Yes, thank you very much. I have to admit I don't do this on a daily basis anymore, but you never forget how to do it. I was among 9 other brothers and sisters, and the role, responsibility and challenges facing farmers and food producers in addressing food security and nutrition is something I keep very present in mind. Today, we live in an age of interlinked challenges, but also of endless opportunities. Overall, important progress has been made in fighting hunger and malnutrition worldwide. However, 795 million people still go to bed hungry every day, including 161 million children whose physical and intellectual development is impaired by undernutrition and nutrition deficiencies. These numbers in the 21st century remain unacceptable. We must step up our efforts to eradicate hunger and malnutrition globally. And when I say globally, I do not only mean on each corner of the planet, I mean by each and every one of us. We are all stakeholders. Farmers, producers, consumers, decision makers, researchers, industries, etc., through real willingness and ability to collaborate in a multi-stakeholder way. Today, I would like to share with you my vision of the challenges we are still facing today that hinder progress and the paradigm shift we need to tackle these challenges. Let me start by describing some of the paradoxes and difficulties that stand in the way of food security and nutrition for all. First, food is produced by farmers. Paradoxically, however, the majority of the hungry people in the world are farmers and their families. Farmers constitute a very heterogeneous category, from tiny smallholders in developing countries to high-tech farms, and from crop producers to livestock farmers, dairy producers, fisherfolk, etc. There is no one-size-fits-all recipe, and policies aiming to support food producers worldwide in contributing to global food security must tackle a complex range of factors. Food producers are entrepreneurs who aim to make a living. They invest, take risk, face increasing environmental, hygiene and safety constraints, have to cope with the impacts of climate change on yields or animal welfare. The importance of quality food products for global food security and good nutrition is stressed over and over again. So, farmers must be better supported in their role of providing the world's food and nutritional needs, starting with a decent reward by paying a good price for their work and products. Convincing the young generations to take over farms has become a challenge worldwide and will remain so, unless Farmers' livelihoods worldwide are better supported, and farmers are able to earn a decent income and are recognized for their role in producing public goods. But farmers interact also with other actors, for instance, consumers, and we are all consumers. Consumers and civil organizations play a crucial role in a growing world population of over 7.3 billion people, projected to reach more than 9 billion by 2050. Good diets are a key challenge for the future. And as we speak, an affluent middle class is quickly arising in many countries, hungry for more meat, fish and dairy. Recent figures indicate that by 2020, the world will consume 60 billion liters more milk than in 2012. Good news for the growth of the dairy sector. But at the same time, it is our common responsibility to ensure that this growth is sustainable and that indeed we are able to produce more with fewer resources and in particular with fewer greenhouse gas emissions and close to no food loss and waste. Fortunately, particularly in Western countries, the civil opinion mindsets are slowly changing and public awareness campaigns gain clout, assisted by new technologies and social media. This should encourage the dairy sector to further step up on its path to sustainability and towards a leadership position in sustainable business throughout the whole chain, economically, socially and environmentally. And listening this morning to the contributions to the presentations, I couldn't agree more. Too much and too often, sustainability is only framed in an environmental way. No, sustainability contains 3 pillars. Of course, environment, but also the social and economic pillar. So the dairy sector should embrace innovation and technology. Research is also making progress every day on how to improve the sustainability of agricultural production. But knowledge transfer should be strengthened. And learning should always be a two-way path, where food producers are also knowledge producers, a knowledge that should be shared for society and a sustainable future aimed to produce concrete results. An important link between food producers and consumers is the food industry or the agri-business. While profit remains the driver of business, the attention of many actors of the private sector is increasingly focused on realizing sustainable results through inclusive growth. Building longer-term relationships with suppliers, governments and consumers is essential, and I have witnessed how more and more big and small companies are willing to cooperate in a transparent and sustainable way in order to make a lasting difference and show leadership. However, to thrive and play a responsible role, businesses of all sizes need an enabling environment. And here, governments have to play a crucial role. An enabling environment means having predictable and evidence-based policies, programs, governance and institutions that can support farmers and food producers with public investments that facilitate private investments with a sound and stable legal framework and through the provision and development of infrastructures. But currently, the question is how many countries are really giving proper attention to the organization and improvement of their food systems. Indeed, some challenges, and food security and nutrition is one of them, are too big to be solved by governments alone. And even within single governments, on such interconnected issues, interests between ministries even diverge. But it is important to realize that dairy farmers will only be able to produce in a sustainable way if they have the expectation to sell their milk, butter, cheese, and cheese, for instance, for a higher price than what it costs them to produce it. And if there is a well-functioning market to buy their products. Summarizing, all stakeholders have their own perspectives, assets, and particular challenges. And these may sometimes seem mutually exclusive. However, if we want to achieve a world where, as the Global Sustainable Development Goals state, in 2030, no one is left behind on such a topic as hunger and malnutrition, then joining efforts is clearly the only way forward. So the question is, how can we move forward? Firstly, inclusiveness. Knowledge and collective ownership are not only guiding the principles for the post-2015 Sustainable Development Goals, or as we call it these days, the Agenda 2030, to be adopted 4 days from now in New York. They constitute the paradigm shift the world needs to achieve sustainability in all its 3 dimensions. Let me repeat: economic, social, and environmental, and particularly for food security and nutrition of all worldwide. A traditional African proverb says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Let me underscore this. This is what guides us at the United Nations Committee on World Food Security, the CFS, the most inclusive international and intergovernmental platform for all stakeholders to work together towards food security and nutrition for all. It's a mouthful, but the International Dairy Federation is an appreciated participant in CFS, and I was proud to see the CFS amongst the priorities for the next year. We count on you, and you can count on the CFS. Just think how many dimensions of food and nutrition issues would be missing if policy dialogue just took place among states and international organizations. We need to have all relevant actors around the table to contribute to policies, to implementation, and to share responsibility for concrete solutions and concrete results, including, given their role in providing food security and nutrition, dairy producers. I congratulate IDF for their exemplary work, gathering everybody from dairy farmers, dairy processing industry, dairy suppliers, to academics and governments, food control authorities. You have made crucial contributions to food security and nutrition. IDF also made a good contribution to the 2nd International Conference on Nutrition last November in Rome to provide private sector inputs to the political Rome Declaration and to the framework for action adopted by more than 150 countries. And indeed, we can no longer afford to work in silos. Secondly, we need knowledge exchange, which is essential. The key to broadening and deepening our understanding of food insecurity and malnutrition and of its immediately and underlying causes is evidence. It requires scientific expertise at different levels and interaction with stakeholders. This is the role, for example, of the CFS high-level panel of experts on food security and nutrition, our HLPE, a participative and dedicated group of international experts that presently independent, solid, evidence-based report and with associated policy implications. Next year's, and co-based on effective IDF lobbying, next year's HLPE report will address sustainable agriculture, including the role of livestock for food security and nutrition. And the HLPE will prepare the ground for policy recommendations negotiated among CFS stakeholders. Thirdly, we need responsibility and ownership that must be felt at all levels. In CFS, member states take decisions, but only after substantial debate and negotiations with all stakeholders. Whether it is on responsible agricultural investments, food security and nutrition in protracted crisis, or tackling food loss and waste, everyone has a part to play in implementing decisions. Countries, of course, through policies, but also civil society, private sector, academia, international organizations, UN agencies should lead within their own programs to improve the enabling environment and hold governments to account. If all CFS participants played their role in implementing CFS recommendations, such a complex challenges as food security and nutrition would be tackled and become history within one generation. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, inclusiveness, evidence-based and ownership are the paradigms which should guide us to achieve the future we want. Only multi-stakeholder collaboration can support us in moving beyond short-term individual interests and to global solutions in agriculture and food security. This year, moving towards the Agenda 2030, thousands of stakeholders have been solicited to define our common objectives for 2015 till the year 2030. And there is a common understanding that after the endorsement of the SDGs the next week, all stakeholders will be responsible for the implementation of these goals. The dairy sector, your sector, has more than once proven to be able to take the lead in building an innovative future. Here in Vilnius, I count on the world dairy leaders, the IDF, on all and each of you, entrepreneurs and other participants, to become a champion of this approach back home and wherever you go, and to ensure that on our path to global sustainability, no one is left behind. Today, the 21st of September 2015, it's more than ever time to make hunger and malnutrition belong to history. Thank you very much for your attention.